but I gotta go drop the kid. I went not that. Okay. So time out. Okay, like. Oh, good. Okay, so by the time I get back from downstairs. Okay. And then if I, okay, so if I hook in my laptop, will that screen still stay up?
Testing 1, 2, 3. Just a quick reminder, everybody, if you could please verify and double check that you've silenced your cell phones while here in the boardroom. And then those that are calling in on the audio stream, please make sure that your side is muted, as if it's not, we can hear you in the boardroom and all of your background noise. Thank you.
We're waiting for Commissioner Grunsky to show up. He's running a few minutes late. Thank you.
we're taking roll call. Commissioner Hamilton? Commissioner Grunsky? Commissioner Roostaller? Commissioner Midgley? Commissioner Maury? Okay, that completes roll call.
Thank you, Chair. I hear in the past that we had some audio issues when it came to the microphones and things like that. So real briefly, I'd like to go over the operation of those. For all the commissioners, you have a mic stand in front of you, and on top of it, there's a button. When you push the button, it'll turn it on, and vice versa. When you push it, it'll turn it off. If you look at your microphone and you see a red circle at the base of the black tip, that means your microphone is live. Also, make sure that you're close enough to the microphone. If you're leaning back in your chair, your audio is not heard as well, and therefore those that are not necessarily in the boardroom but are on the audio line that have called in to hear remotely cannot hear you. And then same thing goes for staff and anybody coming up to this podium. Please make sure that you are standing close enough to be able to be heard and speak loudly, and we will make that happen. For guests coming up to speak at this microphone, I will control the microphone for you, so you don't have to touch it, and we will take care of that for you. So, and I'll be here to assist if there's any issues or any needs. Appreciate it. Thank you.
At this time, the public is welcome to address the Planning Commission on items of interest to the public that are not listed on the agenda. Comments to the Commission are limited to a maximum of 5 minutes. Would anyone here like to speak on any items tonight that are not on the agenda? Seeing none, we will move to action items. We have a consent agenda of items 1 through 9. Items on calendar for consent will be approved in one motion without a public hearing unless a member of the Planning Commission or the audience requests that the item be removed from the consent calendar and heard separately.
Chair, as staff, I would like to add some. We did receive some late correspondence in addition to a request from the applicant on consent item number 5. And the applicant has requested a continuance of that item to a date uncertain, and we will do readvertising of it. We are allowing for some time for the applicant to work out some issues with some interested parties, particularly City of Lathrop.
Pull item number 5 off the.
That's correct, please. Thank you. And then we also received some additional correspondence on items number 8 and 10 as containing the notes for the evening for you. And I also want to mention that about 2 hours ago, we received an email from Bob Gutierrez with the Sound King Partnership, who also sent in the email regarding his support for consent item number 8. And that was just about 2 hours ago, so we were not able to reproduce it in time and get it over here. But I wanted to indicate that. And that concludes it.
Anyone on the commission would like to pull any of the consent items? Audience like to pull a consent item? Being none, can I have a motion for items 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9?
So move.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
And just confirming the motion was from Midgley, the second from Roostaller, correct?
Yes.
Thank you. Right. Commissioner Roostaller. Commissioner Maury. Commissioner Midgley.
Yes.
Commissioner Grunsky.
Yes.
Commissioner Hamilton.
Yes. Motion passes 5-0.
Continuance, we'll do a motion on the request for continuance. If you're, I believe that you made a statement that you're going to just remove it from the agenda. I believe the proper procedure would be to have a request for continuance heard by the commission and a vote to grant that request for continuance, if that's the pleasure of the commission.
Do you want him to state in his request for,
I think he stated a request for continuance for item number 5, and so generally we'll do a vote on that request for continuance.
I have a motion for request for item number 5. A motion,
To confirm, was that motion by Grunsky?
for Grunsky,
Okay. And then second by Midgley, correct?
Midgley.
Thank you. Moving to the roll call vote. Commissioner Grunsky. Commissioner, Commissioner Roostaller. Commissioner Maury. Commissioner Midgley.
Yes.
Commissioner Hamilton.
Yes.
Thank you.
Motion passes 5-0. So we'll move on to other business. On the other business docket is a report to the Planning Commission on PA number 1600084, Ashley Ranch time extension, letter dated May 20th, 2020, from Joe Murphy of Dillon and Murphy.
Chair, do you want to take public hearing item number 10 first, or would you rather take?
I'm sorry. I jumped over 10. I apologize. I went right over the top of it. I apologize. Okay, we'll move to item number 10, which is an action item, use permit number PA 1800177. Do we have a staff report? Pardon me?
Would you like us to begin?
Yeah,
Okay.
please. Thank you.
Good evening, Chairman and Commissioners. The proposed project is a use permit application to establish a religious assembly facility for a maximum of 185 attendees. The project site is located on the east side of South Priest Road, 0.8 miles south of East French Camp Road in French Camp. The project site has a general plan designation of low-density residential and a zoning designation of agriculture urban reserve 20-acre minimum. The 5-acre project site has an existing single-family residence and accessory buildings. The surrounding parcels are primarily residential with some agriculture to the east and the southwest. This is a copy of the site plan submitted by the applicant. PA 1200118 was applied for on June 21st, 2012 for religious assembly for 50 people and the construction of a total of 17,266 square feet of buildings. On April 18th, 2013, the project was heard by the Planning Commission. Neighborhood concerns included land use compatibility, traffic, noise, and aesthetic impacts of an 80-foot pagoda tower. The project was denied on a 2-2 vote with one planning commissioner absent. The project was appealed by the applicant to the Board of Supervisors on February 11, 2014, and the Board of Supervisors upheld the Planning Commission's denial of the project. PA 1800177 was submitted to establish a religious assembly facility for a maximum of 200 people on July 12, 2018. The original proposal was to construct approximately 25,000 square feet of buildings in 6 phases over 10 years. Ultimately, the applicant revised the scope of the project to include a maximum of 185 people and the construction of 24,803 square feet of buildings in 2 phases over 6 years. The facility proposes meditation retreats for an average of 50 people at a time that will occur an average of 8 times per year. Normal operations during the week will see approximately 15 attendees per day and an average of 65 attendees on the weekends. The facility anticipates a maximum of attendance of 185 attendees, an average of 4 times per year during special holiday events. A pagoda building with a total overall height of 62 feet is proposed with this application. According to the applicant, a pagoda is an important focal point for the Burmese Buddhist religion. The structure is comprised of a 24-foot building and a 38-foot steeple-like architectural feature, which does not provide additional floor space. Development Title Section 9-1005.3B5 states that as long as there's no floor space above the height limit, and the steeple-like feature is not taller than the maximum allowed under a county ordinance relating to airports, a steeple may be constructed above the height limits in the development title. Due to a miscommunication between the applicant and Community Development Department staff, the staff report states that the pagoda building will not include lighting. However, the pagoda building will include accent lighting. The applicant states that the pagoda lighting will be on a timer and programmed to shut off at 10 p.m. Although the final design of the pagoda for this project is not complete, the applicant has provided a picture of a pagoda from another location that is consistent with the design themed envisioned for this project. The Farm Bureau submitted a letter expressing concern regarding land use. The letter states that the Religious Assembly neighborhood use type is an incompatible use in the AU20 zone and expressed concerns regarding the potential impacts on agricultural operations. With regards to impacts to adjacent agricultural uses, the Religious Assembly neighborhood use type may be conditionally permitted in the AU20 zone, subject to an approved use permit application. Additionally, the project's general plan designation is low-density residential, and the Religious Assembly use type
If you're on the phone, please mute your phone. Please confirm if you're on the phone that you've muted your phone.
Additionally, the project's general plan designation, density residential, or RL, and a Religious Assembly use type is permitted on properties zoned RL with a site approval application. Further, the neighborhood is predominantly residential with agricultural activities occurring on parcels to the southwest and the east. Additionally, all uses in the agricultural zone are subject to the San Joaquin County Right to Farm Ordinance, which states that inconveniences or discomforts associated with agricultural operations or activities shall not be considered a nuisance.
I'm sorry to interrupt, Chair. This is Jimmy with ISD, or Information Services Division. For those of you that have called in and are on the audio line for this meeting, you could please verify that you have muted your phone at this point, as we can hear all the background noise and shuffling and talking that is going on during your call. We would greatly appreciate it to reduce interruptions to this meeting. Thank you.
The Community Development Department has received 2 letters in opposition to this project. The letters cite impacts on aesthetics, ground and surface water impacts related to the project density, traffic concerns and parking in the right-of-way, nuisance, land use compatibility and zoning conflicts, noise, air pollution, and the use of short-term housing as meditation retreats on site. The cited impacts on aesthetics are pertaining to the proposed pagoda building. and the fact that the building exceeds the maximum height of 35 feet in the low-density residential zone. For clarification, it should be noted that the project site zoning designation is agriculture urban reserve, 20-acre minimum, not low-density residential. As stated previously, the pagoda will include accent lighting programmed to turn off at 10 p.m. And the development title section 9-1005.3 B5 permits agricultural features to be built above height limits prescribed in the development title, provided no additional floor space is added with the feature. Regarding impacts on ground and results of the project, a soil suitability and nitrate loading study was prepared and reviewed by the Environmental Health Department, and the Environmental Health Department determined that the use of on-site septic tanks and wells is appropriate subject to mitigation measures provided by Environmental Health Department and contained within the staff report. Additionally, the applicant must obtain a permit to operate a small public water system approved by the Environmental Health Department. Regarding traffic and parking impacts, a traffic technical memorandum was prepared dated October 29, 2017, and was reviewed by the Department of Public Works. Department of Public Works confirmed that the project will not result in significant traffic impacts and no additional mitigations are required. In addition, the project proposes 66 parking spaces, which exceeds the 60 spaces as required in the development title. Therefore, traffic and parking impacts are considered less than significant. Regarding nuisance, the recommended conditions of approval will ensure that the proposed development will meet development standards of San Joaquin County and ensure that the proposed project will not create a nuisance. Regarding land use compatibility and zoning conflicts, as stated previously, the project parcel carries a zoning designation of AU20, Agricultural Urban Reserve 20-acre minimum, and the religious assembly neighborhood use type may be conditionally permitted in the AU20 zone, subject to an approved permit application. In addition, all findings, including regarding land use compatibility, must be made in the affirmative in order to approve the project. As a condition of approval, a masonry wall 6 to 7 feet in height will be required in areas adjacent to residences. The applicant is proposing a masonry wall around the entire perimeter of the property. The Community Development Department recommends that the Planning Commission approve the project based on the ability to make all of the required findings in the affirmative. Regarding noise, the project is subject to the county noise standards pursuant to Development Title Section 9-1025.9. The project proposes indoor activities which include meditation where the attendees are silent for the duration of their stay. As a result, significant noise impacts are not expected. Regarding air pollution, the San Joaquin Valley Unified Air Pollution Control District states that an air impact assessment will be required prior to issuance of building permit for the project. This requirement has been incorporated into the recommended conditions of approval. As a result, impacts to air quality will be reduced to less than significant. Regarding the use of meditation retreats, this facility proposes to meditation retreats for an average of 50 people at a time, and these retreats will occur an average of 8 times per year. The Community Development Department has determined that the use of meditation retreats is accessory to the religious assembly use type and is consistent with the religious assembly neighborhood use type and is compatible with the surrounding uses in the area. In addition, the conditions of approval ensure that potential impacts are reduced to a less than significant level. This photo was taken along South Priest Road, and it shows the entrance to the property. The picture also depicts a single-family residence, which is not a part of this application. This picture depicts the existing agricultural building that is proposed to be converted to a mixed-use worship building. This photo is taken from the center of the parcel looking east at the location of the proposed pagoda structure. This concludes staff's presentation. Thank you.
The application denials. Art.
What was the question regarding this?
You had 2012, 13, 14, 18, so 12, 13, 14, they were denied project, correct?
Yeah, there was a previous application that was, the Planning Commission voted 2-2, which in effect is a denial of the project.
Yes.
The project applicant appealed it to the Board of Supervisors, and the Board of Supervisors upheld the denial.
13.
In
13 and 14.
okay.
And what's the total footage of the building going to be?
So the total square footage proposed is 24,803 square feet.
So if I got your numbers right, you have 10 to 15 people during the week and then 65 on weekends. That's what. Any other questions? Staff? Okay, staff recommendation?
Staff recommends that the Planning Commission adopt the mitigated negative declaration, which was attachment C of the staff report, adopt the findings for use permit, which was attachment D of the staff report, and approved use permit number PA 1800177 with the recommended conditions of approval contained in the staff report, with one minor modification. After the staff report packets were sent out, the Community Development Department learned that the project is not subject to the Airport Land Use Commission review fee. As a result, the Airport Land Use Commission condition of approval will be removed.
We're going to start with the owner of the property saying a few words, and then my name is Brian McNamara. I'm the project manager, and the architect will give a short presentation.
Good evening, and thank you for the opportunity to speak this evening. My name is Ugosa. I am Burmese Buddhist monk and minister to our San Joaquin County Burmese community. I wish to begin by saying that I believe I speak for all of us of Burmese descent when I say that so very grateful to being given the opportunity to settle descent.
Thank you.
Good evening, and thank you for the opportunity to speak this evening. My name is Ukosala, and I'm a Burmese monk and minister to our San Juan County and Burmese community. I wish to begin by saying that I believe I speak for all of us of Burmese descent when I say that we are so very grateful to have been given the opportunity to settle and become citizens here in America. For those that know the history of our native country, you will understand that the freedoms and opportunity we experience here are for us a very precious jewel. We own an enormous debt gratitude of the United States. We do, however, lack in one particular regard here in San Joaquin County, and that is the absence of a proper Nyama monastery and meditation retreat center where we can fully practice our deep religious beliefs. While there are several Buddhist monasteries in the area, such as the Thai and Cambodian monastery, due to difference in language, traditions, and beliefs, we are thoroughly embedded in our spiritual pursuits. At this time, our Burmese Buddhist community, having no proper monastery and meditation center in the area, it's like a ship without a rudder. Tonight, with our help and understanding, we can begin to establish a new course, one that will enable to gather together and practice our belief in ways that are consistent with our religion's practice. This will be of great benefit to us, our parents, our children, and our children's children. On a final note, I want to address a mistaken impression by a few people in the neighborhood that our monastery food or beverage will never be sold. Alcohol is strictly forbidden, and there will be no outdoor loudspeakers, singing or dancing permitted. We came to French camp in part for the quiet and peaceful atmosphere, and we will do our part to maintain that. I thank you for your time and consideration, and wish of you good health, happiness, and peacefulness.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, my name is Brian McNamara. I'm the project manager. I just have a short presentation, and the architect will follow, and a couple of neighbours. Foremost in our minds when we elected to take on this project were the concerns that a small number of our neighbours expressed during the previous application process. The poor representation the property owners received from the hired professionals during that application. It was clear to us that the majority of the problems with neighbours could be addressed, and that the proposed project is in fact a benefit to French Camp. It became very clear to us when reading transcripts or watching video of the previous commission or board meetings that many of the concerns were not really based in fact. This is borne out by the community development staff in this current staff report. Our approach to neighbour outreach was straightforward and honest. We first reached out to those neighbours who had figured prominently in the previous application, especially the small number of folks who had energetically opposed the project. One of them met with us, but has since moved out of the area. Two others told us they didn't care what we were proposing. They didn't want to meet with us. We started off by canvassing the neighbourhood on foot, and on 3 separate occasions signed letters in the immediate vicinity of the property, with a total of 13 from the 1,400-foot notification zone. All of these letters were sent to staff and have been entered into the record. In March 2018, we sent 76 letters to every neighbour in the 1,400-foot zone, using addresses provided to us by staff. In July 2018, we sent letters to the 4 neighbours who had vigorously opposed us, asking to meet with them. And they explained the project. We never received responses. We sent a further letter to all neighbours in March 2020 to inform them of the finding by the county that our application was complete and to ask if they wanted any input before we went any further. And 2 final letters in the last couple of weeks to respond to the letters that staff received in opposition to the project. Unfortunately, we never got an opportunity to speak to those neighbours. We remain willing and ready to meet with any resident, work out any differences. As private citizens, we tend to look at how a project may impact our personal interests, whereas the commissioners are often in the unenviable position of trying to balance localised interests with those of the county's long-term goals. Changes in our built environment are inevitable, and in part it is up to the commissioners to see that such changes are undertaken in well-reasoned and in a way that is consistent with the policies and goals of the general plan. We believe, and staff concur, that the present proposal is consistent with the general plan as well as the development title. And we are grateful that after 2 years of review, the staff has recommended approval to the Planning Commission. A brief description of the use. The project we are seeking permission to build is a neighbourhood religious assembly for up to 185 people. That's just 4 times a year. On holidays, they'll have up to 185 people. The rest of the time, it's like 10 to 15 during the week and up to 65 on a Sunday. There are 3 other religious assemblies in the French neighbourhood religious assemblies, and then there's a community religious assembly just up the road. So clearly the use is appropriate for the neighbourhood. The day-to-day operations of the property will be confined to the hours between 7 a.m. and 9 p.m. 7 days per week. This does not mean that there will be a lot of activity every day, just that there will be no activity after 9 p.m. There will be 2 monks living on site at the property at any given time, with other monks and guests coming from time to time. Daily visitors are expected and will consist of those coming to meditate, assist with cleaning and maintenance, or just come for a stroll in the gardens. The facility will also offer residential meditation retreats of 10 days in length, to be held up to 4 times per year, and 3-day retreats to be held up to 4 times per year. A maximum of 50 students can be accommodated for these retreats. Participants commit to silence for most of their time on the property, and for the first 9 days, this silence supports their intensive meditation practice. The Burmese community recognises the harm done to the relationship with neighbours by noise from an impromptu festival when they first purchased the property. They invited way too many people. They didn't control it properly. They now fully understand the need to not do that and to respect their neighbours. It's important to note that these holiday services were actually held 4 times in 2019, all under special events permits. And they included services by the monks for up to 200 people, with communal meals held outdoors, with well-executed off-street parking and permitted porta potties. It all went off without a hitch and resulted in 0 complaints from neighbours. Finally, in describing the use, it's important to differentiate between the Burmese community and other Asian Buddhist communities. While they all revere the historical Buddha as their founder, other comparisons are almost always erroneous. Burmese monasteries, particularly those devoted to the teaching of meditation, tend to be introverted, peaceful places. They are not places for noise or partying. but for silent reflection and mental development. This property will be quiet and welcoming to everyone to come and enjoy some time away from the hectic pace of life. Due to the low levels of traffic generated by the project, the county does not require a traffic study. However, given neighbourhood concerns over the issue, we thought it prudent to engage the services of a traffic engineer. He's on the WebEx. He'll give his little presentation a little bit later. Lighting will be very limited in scope and designed not to spill over to neighbourhood properties. Giuseppe posted a photograph of what we're thinking of for the pagoda, but we're perfectly willing, as a condition of approval, to listen to staff and control that however it needs to be controlled. And all lighting, except that necessary for security and safety, will be turned off no later than 10 p.m. each evening by photocells and timers. When a project such as this is proposed for our neighbourhood, the natural tendency is to first consider the negatives, and sadly we often miss the benefits. This is understandable, but I'd like to take a minute to explore the ways that this project will benefit the community. As already mentioned, French Camp has been designated by the county as an urban community as opposed to a rural community. It's surrounded on all sides by city fringe areas, interstates and railroads. The urban community of French Camp has been specifically cited by the general plan for infill development to reduce outward growth. Given all of this, the approval of this project will actually preserve some of the rural and quiet nature of the neighbourhood. It's really important to us that that happens as well. It's impossible to have a silent meditation retreat in a really noisy urban area. So the proposal includes walking and garden areas that are open for neighbours to come and enjoy. While some may think that they'll never take advantage of this, consider the future when the area is built to a density of 4 to 6 homes per acre. It's not difficult to imagine couples with their children coming for a walk at the facility. The general plan also recognises the importance of diversity in our neighbourhoods for both environmental and welfare reasons. It is in this mind that the general plan and development title allows for churches, libraries, museums and other similar uses in such areas. The proposed project will offer visual relief from the monotony that typically occurs in large tract housing. Over the next 6 years, the applicant will invest millions of dollars into construction of the project. This translates into significant job opportunities and income for local retailers and small business owners. There are those neighbours who worry that we will disrupt the peaceful, bucolic way of life in French Camp. One of the reasons the applicant decided to purchase land in this community is that peaceful, bucolic way of life. The success of the retreat centre depends on the atmosphere around it. Just like most of you, we would like to see French Camp remain as it is today because such a setting is ideal for our facility. But change will come and we will work with you to see that when it arrives, it will do so in a way that we can each live with. Again, the current proposal is peaceful in its character and will aid in slowing down the more intense development slated for French Camp. Finally, there's the issue of what's being taught at the facility. Like a great many religions, the Buddha spoke of a life lived with morality and wisdom, with the goal of relieving human suffering. The need for these qualities is universal and will surely be of benefit to any community. Thanks for the time, for giving us some time. And Stephen Cho, the architect, will go over the design.
Mr. McNamara, we understand the rights of the religious assemblies and flag areas. We understand that. I have some questions, though. Of these retreats, there's 5 retreats going to be built there.
Sorry?
There's 5 retreats that are going to be built?
Yeah, so the...
silent meditation?
Yeah. So 4 10-day retreats and 4 up to 4 3-day retreats per year.
How many beds are going to be in each retreat?
Yeah, maximum of 50 people at the retreat.
Pardon me?
Maximum of 50.
50 beds?
Yeah, maximum of 50.
How many toilets in there?
How many?
Toilets.
Oh, toilets?
That's I don't believe there's any.
So the architect has those details at hand.
Would you just tell me how many toilets, Mr. Architect? Pardon me? Giuseppe, we understand that there's going to be toilets in those buildings. We know that. Do we ever see anything about it? I think the last time we had this, I was on this the last time, and there wasn't any toilets in the buildings.
There was, that's changed. I think the last time, I can't speak to it because we didn't design that project, but one of the major sticking points was that there was like don't quote me, but like a 1,500 square foot public or bathroom, and this disturbed a lot of neighbours. Why did I need a 1,500 square foot bathroom? So what we've done this time is distributed the bathroom facilities evenly throughout the residences, so that instead of one large public bathroom, you've got private ensuite bathrooms in some of the residences.
Well, let me ask this. So could be 50 people in each one of these
retreats,
accommodation spots? 50?
Up to 50, yeah.
So there could be, on any day, it could be 200,
oh, no.
4 or 5 of them?
No. So the retreats, there'll only be 50 beds for the retreats. So that's the maximum number. During a retreat, the maximum number of people, I think, is like 65. I have it here somewhere, but I think it's like 65 people during a retreat. And then they have these holidays, like 4 times per year, maximum of 4 times a year, with up to 185 people. But that's outside of a retreat.
So there's... How many beds did you say is in one of these retreats?
50.
50?
Maximum total, yeah.
50?
Yeah.
Each retreat?
For each retreat, yeah.
Each retreat.
Yeah.
So there could be 250 people in these retreats.
No, the retreats are only held up to 4 times a year.
Okay, so 4 times a year.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm thinking a retreat is a meditation course. So the buildings, there's 5 buildings with 10 rooms in them. That's what's proposed.
So the 1-story, 1,650 square foot building has 50 beds in there.
No, 10 beds. There are 5 buildings with 10 beds in each.
Where's the excess parking coming from?
The 69 parking spaces in the site plan, which is more than...
Not on top of the leach lines any place.
What's that?
You're not on top of the leach lines. You're not parking cars there.
No, not at all, no.
Okay, thank you.
I had a question for you. Almost 25,000 square feet seems like a lot for any project. Is that mainly because when you retreat, you have separate rooms?
Yeah, it's a big part of it, and it's also because the 2 assembly buildings, there's the pagoda and the other assembly building, which is currently an agricultural building that would be converted. They don't get used at the same time. It's just part of the programmatic deal with the retreats is that they have times during the day when they have, all 50 participants in the big assembly, and then they go over to the pagoda at other times during the day.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Any other questions?
Okay.
Want to state your name and address, please?
Hello, Commissioners. My name is Stephen Cho, 4036 Olive Road, Los Angeles, California. Licensed architect, project architect for this project. Thank you for allowing me to address you today. Do each of you have a larger copy of the site plan that you have in front of you? Okay. I won't. So basically, I just wanted to go over the site plan, and also the chair was asking about the differences between the 2012 submittal and this submittal, so I wanted to kind of show what the differences were. It's a totally different project team, so I don't really know the programmatic kind of requirements that they had or why they made the decisions they did, but I'm just going to go through the differences of what was actually presented previously and what we're presenting today. Okay. Okay. So you could look at your site plan. We have 3 existing structures. We have a single-family house up in the front that is going to remain residential. It's going to be housing several monks throughout the year. And there is currently a wooden barn that is to remain. It architecturally looks like a traditional rural barn. It will remain that way in its feature. It will be converted in a couple different phases. First to a garage, and then the second phase it'll be converted into an office building. There's currently an existing large. There's a photo that was shown earlier. It was a large metal agricultural building, open air, that will be converted eventually into a meeting space and also a dining hall, in which a kitchen building will be added onto that. And then the primary building will be a proposed 5,900 square foot pagoda. And the intent is to replicate a famous pagoda in Burma. It's called the Ananda Pagoda in Bagan. You probably have seen pictures of Bagan with a whole landscape of pagodas. It was something that they built as very frequently. So it's a beautiful structure, and obviously how to recreate it. It's going to be obviously a scale version. It's not going to be exact replica of what it was. And then there'll be 5 residential buildings that will house 10 people apiece. Three of the buildings will have ensuite bathrooms, to your point. So there'll be 30. So I gave you an incorrect number earlier. I said there was only going to be 30 total. There's going to be 30 in 3 of the buildings, and then the other 2 will have shared bathrooms for the occupants. So there'll probably be a total of 40 toilets in those 5 buildings, and then there'll be another additional bathroom in the kitchen dining hall. Or that.
I have a question.
They spend the entire night there?
Will they be spending the entire night there? Yeah, so in these retreats, usually there'll be a duration of 9 to 10 days. So they'll be there for 9 or 10 days.
I have a question. Okay, so I'm looking at the site plan, and it says, of the 5 short-term mediation retreats,
yep.
1, 2, 3 of them are 9 beds, and only 2 are 10 beds. I thought you just said all of them are 10 beds.
So there's like some flexibility in terms of how they arrange the spaces and how many beds they put in. So I think in the program we just said 10, but they probably fit 9. So it's 9 or 10, depending on how they configure the building.
And refresh my memory. Of these 5, they all have the bathrooms.
So 3 of the buildings will have ensuite bathrooms. So there'll be 10 rooms with ensuite bathrooms, and then 2 of the buildings will have common bathrooms. So it'll just be more of a communal bathroom. Okay. So in addition, so we covered the 5 residential buildings. Then we will also have a maintenance shed by the parking lot in the front. And toward the back, if you look in the southeast corner, there is going to be an elevated 40,000 gallon elevated water tank that will serve domestic water and fire suppression. There'll be a fire hydrant in the center of the property that will cover all the buildings per the fire code. The roads will be 20-foot fire roads. There's 2 entrances, one in the north, one in the south, per the development code. The main entrance will be in the one in the north. And originally there was a discussion with the neighbor. Originally the entrance was in the south. The neighbor was concerned that there might be too much lights shining down on them, so we switched them around, and I think they were satisfied with that arrangement. There'll be a 6-foot tall masonry wall around the perimeter, as the staff report indicated, per the requirements, per the conditions of approval, and there will be a road dedication up in the front per also the conditions of approval. Currently the water treatment system is, we just laid out, showed that we have space for the leach lines and the 100% replacement field. We will have to actually go through with an actual septic engineer to make sure we design it, make sure that it's correct. But we just wanted to show that we have the space for the septic systems. And then the parking, the requirement was 61 spaces. We're providing 68 spaces. All the buildings will be handicap accessible. There'll be accessible parking spaces in each of the building clusters. And landscaping, we'll have landscaping throughout, drought tolerant landscaping per the development code. And then stormwater drainage. We have retention. We have 4 different retention ponds or retention areas, landscaped areas that we intend to act as retention areas. One toward the back, one by the parking lot, then a couple down on the south side. So,
Question.
Yes, sir.
A lot going on here in this 5 acres. Looks like you've done a good job. The water storage, 40,000 gallons, is that also water suppression?
Yes. Yeah.
Dual purpose. And I see you have landscaping on the outside by the entrance and exit. The rest of the landscaping looks like it's on the inside.
Yeah, so we have the 6-foot tall perimeter masonry wall that's going to act as basically a buffer. And then the interior, obviously we want to...
Landscape on the outside along Priest Road.
Yeah.
That's the only entrance and exit.
Sorry?
That's the only entrance and exit.
Yeah, so there's a two entry and exit in the front.
Thank you.
The pagoda, does that have the services in the pagoda? Services, religious services?
So there's a large open area where there's group meditation that happens there. So they all sit in basically pads, and there's a group meditation that happens in there. That's the only real activity that happens in there. There will be some individual cells where there will be individual meditation, individual go in and meditate in private. But essentially that's it. There's no other
So it could accommodate 200, 300 people?
I believe the maximum number of the whole property is 185. So there shouldn't ever be a point where there'll be more than 185 people in that building.
I've been involved with a lot of churches in the farm area, and I've always been quite in favor of it. I've never seen 5 acres with so few people coming.
Well, the whole point of a meditation center, I think, is they're not there for the bustle, right? I mean, this center is also kind of a cultural kind of beacon for all the Burmese community, so that there will be some cultural draw from all the Burmese community, but essentially the main purpose of the site will be a meditation center. And as such, it's meant for very low impact, very quiet atmosphere. I personally have gone to multiple meditation retreats myself at different locations. And if I was living next to a meditation center, I would be very happy because it's the quietest use you could find. There's no noise. Thank you.
We have our civil engineer and our soils engineer on WebEx. I don't know, is that still? Yeah, okay. So Alex Georgievich will present on, I meant traffic engineer, I'm sorry. He'll present on traffic right now.
Chair, Commissioners, my name is Alex Georgievich. My place of business resides at 642 Faith Avenue, Ashland, Oregon. And before I go any further, can everyone hear me okay?
Yes.
Thank you. So I'm a registered professional engineer in the state of California, and I'm representing the applicant on issues of traffic tonight. I only have brief comments on traffic. I prepared an analysis of traffic generation and considered impacts to the surrounding roads for this development. The use for the site is not included in the standard trip generation manual by the Institute of Transportation Engineers, that's ITE, and therefore I had to do a comparative analysis that was performed using similar site uses to generate the proposed trip generation for this site. I proposed an average daily traffic of approximately 60 trips per day. The afternoon peak is approximately 7 trips. The proposed trip generation is very low and does not impact any surrounding intersections, nor does it impact South Priest Road. South Priest Road is classified as a local commercial industrial road that currently carries approximately 700 trips per day, and per the county's comprehensive general plan, the road has a carrying capacity of 7,000 trips per day. Therefore, it is my professional opinion, based on the low volumes of South Priest Road and the low trip generation rates during the average day and peak hour, that this development will not have an appreciable impact on the surrounding roadway system and will not cause any of the surrounding intersections to fail. And that is a very short and brief report that I'm here to and available to answer any questions or comments if you have any. Thank you.
Any questions or comments from the commissioners? Seeing none. Thank you.
Thanks. I'll mute now.
Live Oak Geotech will now give a presentation on septic and soils.
Hi, this is Abby Rocco from Live Oak. Can you all hear me?
Yes, good evening.
Oh, perfect. Okay, so I'm a registered environmental property assessor and work at Live Oak Geo-Environmental in Lodi. In August and September of 2019, we undertook soil suitability, nitrate loading, percolation, and water testing for the subject property. At the conclusion of our field and lab studies, we prepared and submitted a 23-page document detailing our results. In its analysis of the project and of our report, Environmental Health Department has determined that the use of on-site septic tanks and wells is appropriate and will have a less than significant impact on groundwater quality, provided that the conditions of approval are adhered to. So we concur with the conclusion reached by Environmental Health Department. Through the conditions it's imposed on the project, Environmental Health will ensure that a safe drinking water supply is available for those on the site and that the project will not impact off-site drinking water sources. It should also be understood that prior to the issuance of any building permits and as a part of the county's conditions of approval, a registered civil engineer will need to be retained to prepare designs for the water and septic systems. Finally, the public should be comforted by the fact that the county is requiring quarterly water testing for the domestic well, as well as requiring that the septic system be monitored quarterly and permitted annually. So thank you for the time to letting me speak this evening, and I can answer any questions you might have.
No questions. Thank you. Okay. How many more you have? We have a lot of information. I think we're doing.
No, okay, so three of our neighbors would like to make very short messages to the commission.
Okay. Thank you.
Dr. Kin and his son first, and then Alan Gibson.
Good evening.
Hi,
State your name and address, please.
Yes. So, good evening. First and foremost, I would like to thank the commissions and the staff who have managed these meetings as well as neighbors who have come to during this difficult time. My name is Joaquin, and I reside in Modesto. I'm a physician and working at Kaiser Hospital in Manteca and Modesto both. And in favor of the proposal now before the commissioners. The berm is within around San Joaquin County are in dire need of a monastery and meditation center, such as the one now being proposed. While there are other Buddhist monasteries in the area, given the differences in language, beliefs, and traditions, they are not able to fully meet our religious needs. While it is true that there are some similarities between these and a Burmese monastery, it is just as true that there are significant differences. In fact, it is because of these differences that within the county, we see a variety of Buddhist monasteries such as Thai, Cambodian, Lao, Vietnamese, and others, such each attending to a particular ethnicity. While language is indeed a significant barrier to us, another fundamental difference is our reliance upon meditation, and specifically meditation retreats, which are a vital part of our spiritual practice. From the time we are 5 or 6 years old, we begin attending meditation courses, retreats, and we do this throughout our lives. For 3 to 10 days or even more, we give up the life of a householder and instead live much like a monk, following many of the same precepts. At the proposed monastery, these retreats will be the cornerstone of the facility. For up to 10 days and under the guidance of an accomplished senior monk, attendees agree to follow certain precepts by abstaining from lying, stealing, harming of any living creatures, taking any intoxicants, and the sexual activity. Attendees engage in the tacit agreement to remain quiet, disciplined, and focused during the retreat. In addition, we agree not to leave the site for the entirety of the course. The focus of each day is to be on meditation. The experience and benefits that are derived from such retreats are invariable and for we, Burmese, an essential part of our spiritual well-being. I understand that there are a few who worry we will be a nuisance in the neighborhood, or that the people who come to the monastery will be of questionable character. There is, however, no need for such concern. The facility will be a place of peace and tranquility. I wish to emphasize that the rules mentioned above for the meditation retreats are the same rules that apply to anyone visiting the facility. Recently, we received more than 60 letters from persons living in and around Fresh Camp who feel deeply that the project should be approved. There are some people that will, from time to time, come to the monastery, whether it may be a few hours, a holiday, or for a 10-day retreat. Of these 60 letters, more than half from physicians, nurses, engineers, lab technicians, PhD scientists, business owners, and IT technicians. I believe that this is representative of the caliber of people that will be coming to the monastery, and is also a reflection of how the Burmese community contributes to this great nation. While many of these letters have already been submitted to staff, I would like to enter into the record those that have not. In conclusion, those of us involved in the meditation center wish to promote neutral and more peaceful community, especially during these times of uncertainty and violence. These retreats are offered to those all walks of life, regardless of race or religion. All are welcome to come and join us and practice meditation with the goal of reaching a state of peace and mindfulness. Thank you all for your time.
Thank you. Okay, we'll take 2 more people for support of this project.
Good evening. My name's Alan Gibson. I'm a direct neighbor. My property actually borders there on 2 of the 3 sides. I've been there since well before they moved in there. And I just wanted to say they've been nothing but great, respectful neighbors and quiet. I've never had a problem with any of the activities over there, noise, traffic, any of the such. I've looked over their plans for what they're planning to do there. I have no problem with anything that they're planning to do. That's all I have.
Thank you.
Can everybody hear me? Good evening. My name is Kong Za, and I currently reside in Modesto as well. And recently, I've been asked to ruminate on whether this meditation center has actually benefited my life, has impacted it in any certain way. And I've come to an answer. The answer is an unresounding and absolute yes. Yes, this meditation center has benefited my life and has taught me valuable life skills that I use throughout school, life, and social skills. First and foremost, as we've all heard, this center is a meditation center. And it's a refuge that can anchor people down in times of stress and crisis. Meditation and teachings of the Buddha can help a person become more mindful and obtain a better peace of mind. This is especially important to those who work in search fields such as the medical or law or any other professional field that can cause crisis, especially now during the pandemic and with all the riots that ensue. Everyone seeks to have some sort of relaxation, some peace outside of their work life. And what this meditation center can offer is that peace of mind, that relaxation where they can escape from the pandemonium of their workplace. With the help of a meditation center, people are able to escape the pandemonium at work and enter a haven where one can calm their mind and mentally reset. This is important for anyone in any walk of life. No matter what your profession is, no matter who you are, you need that reset. You need to be able to get away and be able to have a peace of mind. A Myanmar Buddhist center is open to all walks of life, regardless of their race or religion. We are not exclusive to just Buddhist monks or Buddhist people or even Burmese people, but everyone can join, as a peace of mind and relaxation is important to not just Burmese people, but all human beings. Now, you might say, is this just for adults? Which I would say that no, this meditation center is not just for adults. I have also reaped benefits of this meditation center. I've been attending meditation centers since I was 5 or 6 years old. And along with other children and young adults, we've developed many important skills that have been taught by these venerable monks. Lessons in such things such as morality and social skills and leaderships have been taught to us and ingrained into our minds ever since we were little. These meditation centers have taught me things that I've shared with not only my friends, family members, but also my peers in school. And they have helped them be able to progress and advance in a more mindful and peaceful state. So at these meditation centers, I can not also learn, but also teach the other young children that come after me. In this, I also not only help my own generation, but my posterity as well. I'd like to end that such a meditation center that is being proposed tonight is not only a paragon of tranquility, or a paradigm for those who want to teach the next generation and nurture the next generation of lawyers, doctors, engineers, lab technicians, and most importantly, leaders. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you. Okay, that wraps that up. Is there anyone in the audience that opposes this project that would like to speak now? What's your name and address, sir, please?
Hello. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Craig Stevenson. I live at 568 Amy Court in French Camp. I'm 4 parcels down from the proposed center. There's an old saying that if you tell a lie often enough, it becomes the truth. Actually, that doesn't happen. What happens is that people start to believe it to be the truth. And the trouble is that these guys have been saying some of the same things for the last 4 or 5 years about the road and this kind of stuff. They say that it was a commercial industrial road. It was designated that. And that's absolutely not true. It was always designed as a rural, local road only. And in order for it to be an industrial commercial road, it has to have curbs and gutters. This road, we had 2 supervisors on the Board of Supervisors come out 4 years or 6 years ago, whatever it was, to actually take a look at the road. And I think if you guys would do that too, you might be surprised. It's 23 feet wide. That's it. There is easements there for other people. Some of the people have already put stuff in their easements. They know that they're not supposed to, but they have. If you want to widen that road, which I know this board will never, ever do, then that could make it 45 feet, but it's only 23 feet right now. Some of the things they said in their letter to us, oh, well, you can get 6 homes on 1 acre. Well, you guys know that's not true. You know darn well that's not true. That has to be, if you had hooked up to the city water and city sewer, you could do that in the city, 4 to 6 only. And the thing about 7,000 cars can go on, no one's ever said that. No. I just talked to one of the county people today. My wife called him, and he said that's not true. It's never been true. That road would be a maximum of 1,000 cars a day only. That was it. Now think about this too: 40 extra toilets on your property. Really? That's not going to have an impact on your groundwater? I think it will. I'm pretty sure it will. I don't care what anybody says. I think it will. They want to have a 63-foot tower when the highest you can build a residential home is 35 feet. So it's almost twice as tall as the tallest residential house there on Priest Road. I think that's kind of like, it doesn't belong there. We don't care if it's a Hmong church. We don't care if it's a Catholic church. We didn't care if it was anything. We fought this last 6 years ago, and we had 108 people sign petitions not to have that put in. 108. Now, we didn't do it this year because of the coronavirus. So that's one of the reasons why we didn't. We feel that this will be a detriment to the neighborhood. We don't care if it's a Catholic church. We don't care if it's a Baptist church. When the man said that there was 4 other churches in the area, he was absolutely right. There probably is. They're little itty-bitty houses that people have turned into churches. They're not on 5 acres. They're on probably a half acre at the most. And that's it. And they probably have maybe 5 or 10 people at the most go to their services. We have seen this have festivals there already, and it exceeded probably at least 300 people. That was our estimate. Now, it could be a little bit off, 200, whatever, and it was noisy. Don't make no mistake about it. You get 300 people together, it's going to be noisy. I don't think the property values will hold up as well. We didn't spend all this money and all this time on our house to have it, the property values diminished by these people. And when I say these people, I don't mean these people, these type of people. No, like I said, we don't care if it's Catholic, Baptist. It didn't belong on that road. It just doesn't belong on that road. We had, like I said, we had 2 county supervisors come out when we had this before the county supervisors, and they said the same thing. That road's too small for what you guys propose. So if you guys would like, come on out there and take a look at it, really, and then ask yourself what's going to happen when they got 200, 300 people there. It's not going to work. It just won't. 40 toilets? I don't think so. Anyway, that's what my neighbor wants to say a few words. She's lived by one of these before, so she might be a little bit more insight to you. But thank you very much for listening.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Lorena Polito. I live at 10,000 South Priest Road. I'm 4 parcels down from the center. We've already had some incidents. I had a pony that pulled a pony cart, and during one of their celebrations they had, somebody had pulled out and parked the cars in front of the property rather than on the property. When I took my pony around it, she spooked, and my granddaughter got thrown out of the cart. You could blame that on me maybe for that, but my pony was normally pretty good, and she wasn't expecting a car there. I lived in Niles and had a temple right next to me. I'm familiar with this temple. It was originally in Fremont. I'm familiar with that too, and that's why they came out here. There's no room. They just kind of expand and expand. One of the biggest problems with the temple is they'll tell you we have 4 celebrations a year, we have 8 celebrations a year. But the truth is that we know that they can get as many as they want. All they have to do is apply for an extra permit, and they can have a lot of them. I had a long discussion with the first meeting that we had at the French Camp Firehouse over what they were going to do with the temple. We discussed then with their lawyer at that time, was it Mr. McNamara, that it was the size, that we didn't care what kind of church it was, but keep it equal with what's in French Camp. Let's not overblow what we have. We like the quiet. I moved from Niles in Fremont to come here for quiet. And then just 6 or so years after I move in, I get the bomb dropped on me that I'm going through another temple. And it sounds terrible, but you just have to live through it. As far as the water, I am worried about the water. Our wells are great. We have beautiful wells. But I am concerned about that kind of activity and that many toilets. I definitely do not want a meditation center where 50 people are living there and hanging out for whatever their time is. I don't think that that's necessary for our area. Maybe it is for somebody big, a big place like the one in Stockton where they have a lot of room to do something like that. That would be different. If you drive out there right now and take a look at it, they have storage sheds like across the back. And for somebody who wants to improve our neighborhood, their area is completely overgrown and their plants aren't taken care of. Everything's burnt and brown. And it's kind of not, there's not anything, they've done nothing to promote us as neighbors to go, oh wow, that's an improvement in our neighborhood. There's no way that they are going to park all of these people on this property. I've seen them bus people in and bring them in on a bus or in vans, and they park when they have no more room out on the roads, and they're blocking the roads. The activity on the roads, it's true. I would invite you all to just drive out there and drive down our road. There is no way that you're going to get even 1,000 people up and down that road without a big problem. Parking, if there's excess parking, they're going to park right on our little easements. Some people have planted stuff which would prevent that, but like I don't have anything there, but it doesn't, it's not the point. The point is this is what's going to happen. And I intend to have everything I have at the board meeting, but for the things that they're proposing, the biggest thing for me probably is that if they want to have their church there and they want to have the meditation center, that's great. But I don't think it needs to be as big as it is. I don't think it needs to be as outlandish as they want it to be. And I certainly don't think that they need to have people going there and staying for 10 days or whatever during, I don't like it. It doesn't something that's appeal to me. I wouldn't want to see it. I wouldn't want to see it in anybody's neighborhood that's as small as ours. My area is right on the front of French Camp, so my house literally faces French or Priest Road. So it's right on the front. So when any cars go by, it's my front yard. I see what's going on. Mr. McNamara has approached me several times, and the reason why they want to talk to me is because I've lived it. And I'm telling you, it's not good. It took me 3.5 years to move out of the neighborhood and come out here to peace, and then I'm getting hit with it again. So I'm more than willing to work with them and agree with them. They want to have their church, that's fine, but I think that it should equal the size and the activity of any other church that is in our French Camp. And I'm not talking about the tiny ones. We have I believe it's a Jehovah Witness church right by the post office in French Camp. Am I right? It's Jehovah Witness? And their church is big, and they have a lot of property, and they could plant and plenty of places to park. There's no noise. There's no excessive traffic, even when people are coming out. And that's a hard street to get out on, French Camp Road. But even when they have something, some type of a get-together at the church, it's not a big deal. It's fine. You just deal with it. But they only do it a couple times a year. It's not something that you're doing a lot. But French Camp Road is very different than Priest. And when he's saying it's 24 feet, 20, you have two trucks go by each other and you're going a little fast, you can see their eyeballs. So, I mean, it's just not something that's going to have, we are not a place to have that kind of activity. It's just not going to work. But I can't even describe it to you unless you go. The photos they showed, it will give you an idea. All these years they've lived there so far, and there's no improvement other than they've planted things, but they don't care for it. So it's not like it's green out front. Or I moved onto my property 12 years ago, and the whole front was all dirt. And now it's all landscaped, and there's palm trees, and I mean, it looks like an oasis. But they've been there this whole time, and all they've done is plant plants, but there's nothing. There's no roads. They're doing absolutely nothing except planting plants. But it would be something you'd have to go out and see yourself. But I'm definitely against it. I don't want it to happen the way they want it to happen. I don't want it to be that big. I don't want it to be excessive get-togethers. The one that they had was, I know, at least 300 people. Or a family or a couple that he mentioned, neighbors that moved out of the area that were against the temple, is why they left, because they were right next door. So for them, it was just too much, and they moved to the hills, and they're gone. But I think it's worth more of your time than, a quick vote to say, yeah, I'm game to do this, and maybe physically go out there and just take a look at it. Take a look at their place, take a look at the road. I invite you to come look at my place. We couldn't go door to door because of the COVID thing. I wouldn't put anybody at risk like that. I'm sorry I'm not wearing a mask, but I broke it over here when I put it on. But I think you really should come out and take a look. I don't think it should just be something where you go, okay, John says this is what it looks like and this is how it's going to work. The other thing that's really important to me is when we did our sign-offs, for people, if do you want it, do you not want it, and I have copies, when they submitted their sheets against it, they were all out of the area. I think of all the people on there, I counted maybe 4 that were in French Camp or Manteca. Everyone else was long ways away. Los Altos, all in the big cities. So that means they have to travel from here to where they're at to come here. So only, 150 people or 250 people. This temple over here in Stockton, when they have one of their get-togethers and sell food, which is the plan for these, that's what they do, is sell food to help raise money to go on and keep doing what they do. It's outrageous. They put it on Yelp, which I have copies of all that too. They put it on Yelp, and thousands of people show up. And it's so bad that the sheriff or the fire department have to come in and clear them out just so people can get out of their own driveways. I myself had to pay 4 times to have cars towed out of my driveway because they blocked it, because it was so crowded.
I want to wrap up your comments, if you will.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I'm good. Thank you very much for your time.
Thanks for coming up. Yes.
I forgot this, and in their declaration here, they say that the city of Lathrop is going to charge them a fee for the impact that they have on Roth Road. Roth Road is about 2 miles away. So if they're going to have an impact on it, what do you think the actual street of Priest Road is going to have? It's going to have a big impact too. And they're actually going to pay Lathrop money for the impact that they have on Roth Road. But anyway, thank you.
Would anyone else like to speak in opposition to this project? You have a chance for rebuttal if you like.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, neighbours, we feel really bad that we haven't been able to communicate with Mr. and Mrs. Stevenson and Ms. Ippolito. We did try several times. And as you can hear, most of the issues have been dealt with in the staff report. The issues of traffic. We will have the traffic engineer deal with this, the impacts of traffic on the road just one more time. So to help Ms. Ippolito understand that, in fact, this isn't too much. But I would like to address some of the other issues. She said there's no way we can get 200 people parking. Like we said, we had 4 special event permits in 2019. We didn't get a single complaint. Neighbours didn't appear to notice. It was so well run. The neighbours didn't even appear to notice that these special events were going on. They had striped parking on the property. All the parking was off street. There was no buses. It was all cars. And it was very well organised. Nobody noticed. The height issue, it's a steeple. As you can see from the photograph of the pagoda, it kind of disappears. It's not like this, a 62-foot tower. It starts at 30 feet and goes narrower and narrower to almost nothing at the top. So, and it's very tasteful. I'm glad she mentioned the Jehovah's Witnesses. They're just up the road, also in French Camp, and the condition of their permit is that they can have up to 349 people, 7 days a week up there. And it's well run, they have proper parking, they're under the auspices of planning and the building department, so everything was done properly, just as it will be done properly on this project. We have support from many residents of French Camp. It's all in the record. We have signed letters from 13 people within the 1,400-foot zone, and then every other address on there is from French Camp. There isn't a single address from outside French Camp. Mr. Stevenson, unfortunately, was mistaken about Lathrop. They did try to assess that fee, but staff, actually, we didn't even have to get involved. Staff spoke to the agency in question and said that our impacts were insignificant to Lathrop and we were not to be assessed that fee. I think that's it. I'd just like to turn it over to, Ms. Ippolita also spoke about a temple in Fremont. It's not Burmese. It's very unfortunate that you had that, 4 cars towed and all that. It's just not what's going to happen here. It's just not what's going to happen here. And if Alex Georgievich could just close it up, I think that's it. Thanks very much for your time. We really appreciate you listening to us. Thanks.
Commissioners, can everyone hear me again?
Yes.
Thank you. Once again, Alex Georgievich, the engineer for the project, dealing with their traffic. A couple things I've heard. First of all, there was some concerns that this was not listed as a commercial and industrial road, and I looked it up real quick, and on page 828 of the, I apologize, I just lost it. Of the general plan, calls it out as a industrial commercial, and then on page 8-40, Priest Road south of French Camp has a capacity, an 80 threshold of 7,000 vehicles a day and currently carries 700. That is slightly higher than the counts that we had out there, but the study and all the work was done with 700 trips. There's some concerns about lane width. The width of the road at 23 feet, albeit not the widest of roads, it does meet AASHTO, American Association of State Highway and Transportation Officials standards. Those standards range from 10 to 12 feet for a travel lane. So 10.5-foot travel lanes in each, 11.5-foot travel lanes in each direction are more than adequate. And it is a straight section of roadway with no curves or anything. So the capacity of the road is there. Obviously, the curb and gutter and the sidewalk, the urban improvements aren't there, but the capacity is there, and that will not change by adding amenities like curb and gutter, sidewalk, things like that. Those are the issues that I heard, and I think I've addressed them. And if there's any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer any.
Any questions? No, we're good. Thank you. Okay, we'll close this part of the public hearing. Any questions? Alex from Public Works, I got a question for you. Could you come up and tell us what type of road that is concerned by the county and how wide it is? If you would, please. Thank you.
So the first question is about the road classification, and the engineer that was on the phone was citing the San Joaquin General Plan Update Background Report, which indicates a classification of local, industrial / commercial, and it's actually what we call a local road. The only difference between a local road and a local commercial / industrial is basically curb, gutter, and sidewalk, which you may find in an industrial or commercial area, whereas local roads like this one they lack curb, gutter, and sidewalk. This is actually classified as the lowest level of roads that the county classifies. So it's a local rural road.
Country road.
Pardon me? Country road, is that what you said?
Country road?
Yeah.
Okay.
And he further cited that a few pages later in the general plan, it identifies what you might see as capacity for those types of roads. And if it were a commercial road, local commercial road, there is a higher capacity that's associated with that. So that actually it's a lower number. The capacity, which is pretty standard in the industry for a local road, is 2,000 vehicles per day. And the 700 average daily traffic, 700 ADT that was used in his analysis, that was that happens to correspond with counts the county did. I don't know if he got that data from us. It's possible, but it happens to correspond with counts the county acquired in 2006. So that was the last or most best available data, was 700 ADT on that stretch of Priest Road. And then on the second issue of width, so when we're talking about width, we're talking about pavement width or lane width. The right-of-way is actually much larger than that. I think it's 45 feet in that section. But the paved width is about 23 feet. And ideally, you want 12-foot lanes. That would be the standard if we were building a new road. A lot of county local roads, or as you say, country roads, they aren't completely 24 feet pavement, edge of pavement to edge of pavement. But with 23, 11 to 12-foot lanes, or 11.5-foot lanes, that's perfectly acceptable, like the gentleman on the phone said, and meets AASHTO requirements. It's only when we get down to about 10-foot lanes when we start to consider a need for widening those to get to 11 or 12 feet, which we have done in the past on other projects that were served by roads with 10-foot or 9-foot lanes. I can think of a few examples. But 11.5 foot, it should be plenty wide and does meet sort of the standard of care in the industry for lane widths.
Are there any road requirements on a project like this that create quite a bit more traffic? I know they have to do the front, but is there any other?
There are fees required, like any project in the county. They're all subject to the 2 county-adopted traffic mitigation fee programs. What we call the TIMF, which is considered sort of a local road, and then a RTIF, we're generally a pass-through. That's a COG program that we collect on behalf of COG, which the regional aspect of that is generally considered for roadways that are more important on a regional basis, and also like highways and freeways. There's a component for that. And those fees go into a program. There's 2 programs, and those programs identify roadways that are in need of capacity upgrades. And so Priest Road, I don't know for certain, but I'm fairly certain that Priest Road is certainly not a regional road, but it's probably not in the local road program as well. It's usually local collector roads that end up being in that TIMF or local road program. And there is a list. I just don't have all. And there's a lot of roads in that program that are in need of widening. And again, those aren't maintenance. It's not a program that provides maintenance to roads, which the county already does through gas tax revenues. It's a program to allocate funds for widening for capacity improvements. And so, yes, they are subject, and we'll have to pay on both of those programs.
Any other questions for Alex? Thank you. All right, we'll bring it back to the commissioners. Any comments? I'll just make a comment. Since I live in the country, I've always said, Commissioner, we always need to remember who was here first. Secondly, you're on a country road and there are events, there are traffic, and you committed for 150 and you do have 250. It's a big deal in this county because code enforcement doesn't work. I have a big concern with concerns with a lot going on 5 acres.
Oh, I keep reading everything that this is a the neighborhood religious assembly. Doesn't seem like a neighborhood there. A lot of people are going to come to here, but not right in that area. And I look at 5 acres. I've done 20 of these churches over the years. 5 acres, for good God Almighty, are going to come. There's something strange happen, I think, anyway. I just don't think this is the place for. Felt that back.
Yeah, I had a lot of concerns as well. They've mostly been alleviated. I think both sides did a really good job of presenting their sides of it. I saw a lot, reading through the letters, a lot of community support. I know all the streets well. For the last 20 years, I've spent every day in French Camp, right around the corner from this address. And there hasn't been a lot of growth in French Camp for a long time. A lot of nothing really going on. I think this could be a positive, but I do dislike the fact that when the church initially came there, they didn't set the best example off the gate, which could leave the bad taste in the community's mouth. But I think the Burmese people are very underrepresented in the community. I've grown up with a couple myself, and they're good people. So I do believe they will do what they say, and that's all I have to say.
Packet. I'm actually have bathrooms and checks and balances. Yeah. A progress report, so to speak. To the commission, years, 6 years.
Commissioner, through the chair, you can add a condition unless we already have it on there in regard to a report back to the commission, be it 1 year or annually until you decide not to have it. That's just something for you to consider as part of any kind of action you take.
I'm actually for it. I think it's going to be beautiful. And a plus for French Camp, and it looks to me like all of the concerns have been addressed. I think it's going to be
Now, Zoe, how would you make a motion to put in what Mr. Rustaller is saying, and the director as well?
Just ask that you would read the staff recommendation. You'd say with the added condition of either that staff bring the applicant forward or the applicant come forward to report to the Planning Commission on either the status, or you could be more specific. So you would just make an amendment to staff's recommendation to add an annual or however often report.
And the opposition in that, if they had concerns, would they be notified of that progress report? Would they be able to speak and say, hey, it's not?
So it would really depend on your direction, but generally speaking, once you have a project, you have a notification list that follows that project, and generally any noticed item would be sent to that notification list, but you could ask staff whether they would amend that, or you could direct them to send it to an amended, greater or smaller notification list.
So, Commissioner, if I can ask some specificity through the chair again, if you decide to, as a commission, approve this project and you wanted to add such a condition, you can say something to the effect of reporting back to the Planning Commission within 1 year after issuance of the building permit, so that we know that's the key timing in which it gets occupied. And then at the same time, that condition, the condition can also include something in there regarding notification, as we just did the notification today for the 1,400-foot notification, so we can include it as part of the report back.
Thank you.
Anyone want to make a motion? Staff recommendation?
So, through the chair, if I may, if that's the motion, maybe I can add again the specificity, and we can add language to the extent that a use permit review shall be conducted annually until such time the commission determines that is not necessary, and then also as part or period as part of that sentence, and the next sentence could be also the use permit review process will also include a notification through the standard noticing, which is 1,400 feet.
Okay, we have a motion. We have a second.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Rustaller, second by Mr. Grunsky. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Maury. Commissioner Rustaller. Commissioner Midgley.
Yes.
Commissioner Grunsky.
Yes.
Commissioner Hamilton.
No. Thank you. The motion passes 3-2. The appeal period for this agenda expires on June 28, 2020 at 5 p.m. and the appeal fee is $648. Okay. Now we will move on to other business. Report to Planning Commission on PA 1600084 Ashley Road time extension. Letter dated May 20th, 2020 from Joe Murphy of Dillon and Murphy.
Thank you, Chair. David Kwong, I'm going to report out. Could we give a minute for the crowd to leave and Mr. Murphy come in? Thank you. Yeah, we should have some. Thank you, Jennifer. Shall I proceed, Chair?
Okay.
Great, thank you. So, Chair and members of the Commission, David Kwong, your Director, and I'm here to report to address Mr. Murphy's public comments during the May 21st Planning Commission, where he requested the Planning Commission schedule for action his request for a time extension for an expired major subdivision map called Ashley Ranch. I wanted to clarify that I could not accommodate Mr. Murphy's request because the Planning Commission's review authority does not extend to this type of request, and I have instead scheduled this item as a report to the Commission, so I'm going to explain a little bit more. To do that, I'm going to give you some background regarding the timeline of the Ashley Ranch tentative subdivision map, which was first approved by the Planning Commission and subsequently approved again on appeal by the Board of Supervisors on December 13th, 2016. The development title provides for an expiration of tentative subdivision maps of 3 years unless a time extension application is approved by the Commission. This meant that the expiration date would then be December 13th, 2019. If a time extension request is filed before the expiration date, then the approved tentative map expiration date is automatically stayed, so it freezes until the approved tentative map expiration date is automatically stayed, until the tentative map extension, time extension is approved. To date, we have no record of a time extension application on file, so the expiration date of December 13th, 2020, December 13th, 2019, came and went, and so the tentative subdivision map ended up expiring. Around mid-March, staff received an email from Mr. Murphy's firm showing us a copy of the transmittal letter that he provided to the Commission tonight. Basically, it was a transmittal dated November 20th, identifying his application and also asking for the fee amount. And he provided that to the Commission, so you should have that before you as well. With a copy of this transmittal and being new to the county, I was a little concerned, as you can imagine, in terms of what to do, because now I see that there was an email that showed a copy of transmittal that was dated November 20th, 2019. So what I did was I asked staff, actually I asked them multiple times, to scour all the hard copy files, scour their emails, scour multiple planners who might have touched the application or seen it at all in terms of that transmittal, and then also talk to the public works staff in regard to whether they had a copy of the application and or transmittal as well in terms of any kind of emails. So to date, we still don't have any, and we do not have a copy of that transmittal on file. So basically, I really try to, being new here, I grill the staff in terms of, well, are we making a mistake or what's going on? So what I wanted to let you know is we don't have a copy or a record of that on file. So this mid-March date is really timely because it was 3 months after the expiration date. So again, as I was made aware of it mid-March, the expiration date basically was December 13th. December 13th, 2019. So again, it came and went. So basically, we don't have a legal record or a business record of that application being on file. I determined that there was no timely filing as a result, and thus, as I mentioned, the tentative subdivision map was expired. This determination was made after reviewing all of our records, and again, all the conversations we had with staff. I did not make this determination lightly, and I wanted the Commission to know that, because being new, I want to make sure, what our intake process was, and do we, have a mistake made, or do we have any kind of emails shown or not shown, basically what was going on. So the technical determination basically here comes down to the expiration date of December 13, 2019, versus when we first were made aware of the situation, which was March 19, 2020, basically 3 months later. There was no interpretation by me, because this was simply looking at the business record or legal record of what do we have, when did we receive it, and what do we compare it to when we received the additional information from Mr. Murphy in March or mid-March. There was a comparison made in the letter that was submitted by Mr. Murphy's attorney, Mike Hakem. I think you have that before you as well, regarding a comparison to Victory Farms, the use permit time extension. And what I wanted to do is give a little bit of explanation on that and address that issue as well. So the rules for that time extension are different. In addition to staff actually engage with the applicant beforehand prior to the expiration. So a little bit on the timeline for that. The original project for the Victory Islands use permit was approved on June 21st, 2018. That gave the use permit an expiration date of December 31st, 2019. However, the applicant basically met with the staff, and at that meeting, they basically said to staff, or they affirmatively said to staff, we're going to file a time extension, mainly because they still had to work out public works and environmental health department type issues that we knew could not be taken care of in the next 5 weeks. So I basically took that affirmative statement at that time and said, okay, just file the paperwork. And that's really important from that perspective because it is also governed by only one set of rules, which is Development Title 9, whereas the Ashley Ranch tenant map time extension is governed by both Development Title 9, in addition to State Subdivision Map Act requirements. And that requires something to the effect of upon application, upon receipt of the application. So there's a difference in terms of also the applicable rules for the use permit for Victory Farms time extension as compared to the Ashley Ranch tenant map time extension. So in that particular case, again, we also had not only a governing set of rules, but we also had actually sat down with the applicant a month beforehand, or a little bit more than a month beforehand, and basically made the call after they affirmatively said that they would be filing the application, that they basically needed to submit the paperwork. So again, this is not a good situation for any of us, and I really did not make this determination lightly. But it seemed very straightforward from a business record or a legal record standpoint. What do we have on November 20th? What do we have in December of 2019? And then what do we have as we start our search in mid-March? What we can do at this point, and I know it's a discretionary process, and I'm not saying that's lightly either, but what we can do is continue at this point to talk to Mr. Murphy and his client, the owner, and process the application. Is approximately a $12,000 application, and as we said in the staff report, which we are committing to as well, we believe since all the environmental issues were mostly taken care of, we think it's going to be a very streamlined process, so we believe that will take another 3 months from the time they submit an application, basically to get to the Planning Commission. And with that, I conclude my report to the Commission, and if you have any questions, I'm here.
If you expedited that or had a new application, what would that fee be?
$12,000 approximately.
$12,000. Okay. I had a question for you. In the past, your department has sent out notices to applicants, reminding them their applicants are going to be expiring. When did you stop that process?
So I started with the county November 25th of last year, and sometime after that, I decided to stop that process because we did not want to be accountable, like situations like this, for applicants that really need to manage those particular timelines, because there was a lot of staff work to manage all the timelines. But I don't really think it's applicable in this case because the application that was submitted or indicated in the transmittal was November 20th. So if that application was submitted, there did not necessarily need to be a reminder is what I'm saying. It was actually submitted. What I'm saying to date is that we just don't have a record of it.
No longer sent out.
That's correct.
No longer after as of last December.
That's correct. But yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Any questions? Okay.
So let me go into the process, and I think Jennifer can actually help me on really detailed part of it. So you can submit your applications now, walk into the office and check out your fees and submit your application with your fees. You might be able to do it electronically pretty soon as well, or if not already. But to the extent that you just file your application and then we process it. Jennifer's instituted a process since September regarding basically when a application is submitted at the counter, there's somebody who attends to it and actually either stamps it or processes it in different ways. So I'm going to defer to Jennifer here.
To make it sound like the department never followed this practice before, I went back to work full-time in September and took over the responsibility of current planning, so I can only say exactly what has happened under my direction since then. When an applicant submits an application, first of all, it's policy to never accept an application without money. Sometimes people do mail in an application and it may not have money, and in that case, we still forward it through the standard process. The standard process is that the applications there's an intake process, and they're sent to something called a new project review, which we hold every Tuesday, where all the departments review the applications, so it's on everyone's radar. And then we officially, with our support staff, send an official letter that says either your project has been deemed complete for processing or it's missing A, B, and C. So it's very clearly documented when you have missing information, or if it's been deemed complete, then we are saying that we have everything we need. So there are situations where someone will drop an application and then leave, and in that case, if we don't, there's no way for us to prove that it was dropped off correctly. If they don't,
you don't give a receipt or anything.
We would if they came in the office and waited for a receipt. Yes, that is our standard practice. But okay, like I said, we do sometimes get mailed in applications. Mr. Murphy is known to mail in applications, and if it came in without money, we would have sent it back, the letter saying it was missing some information. So most of the time, I would say the majority of the time, people pay right at the counter, and they get a receipt that is time and date stamped. Does that answer your question? That was Commissioner Rustaller. I apologize.
Thank you. Anyone else have a question?
So if they mail it in, do you call? Do they know the amount? They don't know the amount. Do you still have the application?
All of the fees are on our website. And one of the other things we did in this situation is we checked all of our emails to see if we had any correspondence in this particular situation, to see if there were any emails back and forth requesting any fees, and we were unable to find any. So there are different ways we can get the fee information to the applicants, but it's always on our website.
That since he has a copy of it, that it could have gotten lost? Or?
I would hate to speculate. All I can tell you is that we checked every possible place where we would have had a record of some sort of correspondence, and we could not find any. There is human error, of course, but if it had come in without the fee, we would have sent a letter back saying you needed to submit this fee within a timely manner. We have 30 days to deem a project complete or incomplete.
Yeah, quick question. This is a special report, so is this process the same as the other items? For example, you spoke, and then we speak, and then
Yes,
some representation comes
through the
up?
chair, yes.
But this is informal. We don't do the.
There's no action on the.
Yeah, of course.
But I would also, obviously, through the chair, there's probably testimony from Mr. Murphy and Mr. Hakem.
Okay, yeah, my question is, first, how do we solve this problem in the future with some checks and balances and things like that that he said, or whatever, like could have mailed it, could have, it happens, but solving the problem where someone sends something or gets a warning that their time extension's coming up, I think we should have some of those systems in place, and we should really think about how we can do that. The other thing is, how do we help this man expedite expedite this whole process. I mean, I don't know him personally, but I know he's been doing business here a long time. I want to do anything I can to help him. 3 months is, I mean, if I hand walked it to each department, would it go faster? I'm supposed to go on vacation tomorrow, but I mean, I'd stop and sacrifice my time if I could help this guy. And it's not just for him. I was the same way with Victoria Island. Whatever I can do to help these people. And I really hope there's something we can do to expedite this process. It sounds like we're kind of out of it on this one up here on the commission. It's a special circumstance, but love to hear some ideas of how we could really help out. Maybe Mr. Hakam has some ideas as well.
So Commissioner, through the chair, basically because the map is dead, the originally approved map is dead, it is a new application, and we're willing to expedite it 3 months, and we will try and walk it through as much as possible. We are going to be working with multiple agencies, departments as well to get their comments, so there's that part of it. But if we had in possession that timeline extension, is an automatic stay of the approved tenant map. It would not expire, and Mr. Murphy could continue finaling his map, which is the final map or final engineering document that is prepared, creating those legal lots with the Public Works Department, but there would be an automatic stay.
I have one other point I wanted to bring up. I just did the math on 17 homes. It's $400,000 to $500,000 net fees for these homes. Wouldn't this department think, let's get that in the county coffers as soon as we can? We've got to make sure that this application gets through. So we got to, you know, these big applications are going to pay a lot of bills in this county. Wouldn't the office say, oh, we got to send notices out and keep them going? We got to keep things rolling. I mean, the way it is right now, this money is not going to come in for a long time.
And absolutely, Chair. I mean, like I said, this was not a light decision. It was, I knew what it would do. It's awkward. He could be losing sales, that kind of stuff. It's not something I wanted to do. It's something I felt like, or I felt and saw based upon the determination of here's the dates and where's our records. I couldn't even find any kind of correspondence, as Jennifer said, emails either. So one thing that we did do, or actually I did recommend that the commission did approve tonight as well, as those automatic time extensions, actually. So you made a recommendation to the board for something that will go forward on July 21st that basically gives everybody an automatic time extension on all those maps, so we don't have to worry about tracking it anymore. So that was one of the things to recognize not only COVID, but the economic environment we're in, which is basically what you're speaking to. We want those funds in our county coffers, and we don't want to delay it from that perspective.
I mean, that money. Okay. All right, excuse me.
I had lunch with Mr. Hakam last week, and it was my understanding, we said that he said this was coming up, that it's going to be more than $12,000, that there was a lot more money that it would cost to start everything over.
All right, let's talk to
Mr. Hakam could talk about that or correct this.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Hakam?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. Mike Hakam, 3414 Brookside Road in Stockton. To answer Commissioner Midgley's question, Mr. Murphy does have an economic presentation feature that will go through the cost and expense of the project related to any extension and any denial of the opportunity tonight. So we'll go through those dollar for dollar just in a few moments. But I'm going to make some opening comments, Mr. Chairman. I'm here representing Joe Murphy on his application. As you may know, I distributed a copy of my letter brief with the attachments to each of you. I'm going to provide a hard copy to the clerk with additional copies if any of the commissioners would like to have another copy in front of them this evening. As provided for in our letter brief, we believe that Joe Murphy timely filed his request for a time extension on November 20th, given his verified letter of transmittal, which is attached to my letter brief. Unfortunately, as we now know, the time extension that was filed was either lost or misplaced. Joe's application for a major subdivision and the request tonight were guided by the Subdivision Map Act. The Map Act provides that you are directed to follow the local ordinance, which is your San Joaquin County Development Title, except as otherwise provided for in the Map Act. The Map Act provides that once a timely filing has been made, which we believe one was once made, you are now instructed to follow the local county development title for your processing. At section 9-205.4F10, the development title advises you that the Planning Commission serves as the appellate body for discretionary staff action. We believe what staff is bringing before you is an application that they determine to be denied, and that's a discretionary decision on staff's part, and we believe that discretion comes before you under the section 10, and it's for the Planning Commission, which clearly sets forth in your code, you're to serve as the appellate body for discretionary actions by staff, and we think the one before you tonight is a discretionary action by staff to deny the request and not to bring it for you for an action item. At section 13 of the same development title section, it also says that the Commission is specifically authorized to review and act upon applications requiring public hearings. Given the information that a time extension requires a public hearing, we believe that this Planning Commission is authorized and directed to conduct a public hearing on the tentative map extension being requested by the client. In closing, we respectfully request that you calendar this item for an action item to consider the request by Mr. Murphy. I'm now going to have Mr. Murphy give you the background to the application, his request for the extension, and the economic impact to the proponents. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Joe Murphy with Dillon and Murphy, 18 in Lodi, California, representing the landowner. Thank you for hearing this saga tonight. It's been a while to get here, so I appreciate hearing this, and we'll try to get through it as quickly as I can. But I've got some handouts that I'll give to the clerk. It looks like it's a lot of paperwork. I've highlighted what's important, and I'll try to just touch on what's pertinent to this. Like a few minutes to digest it, or whatever works the best. Thank you. I believe you've already seen Exhibit 1, and that when I was made aware that the application had expired allegedly, I said, that can't be. I made a time extension application a month prior to the expiration date. I forwarded this packet to planning, clearly showing that I submitted in November. I highlighted under the remarks that I was unsure of what the fee was, and although fees are posted on the website, I had an issue 2 months prior on a time extension, and I have a copy of the email chain if you'd like to see it, but there was some confusion on to take a board action or planning commission action, and depending on the action, dictated the fee. This particular project was approved at planning commission, but appealed to the board, so I didn't know if it took board fee or planning commission fee. That was the confusion. We dropped this application off. I think speaking to how submittals are made, and I think Jennifer or any of the planners can attest, sometimes they're busy at the counter and a package comes in and they say, can we get you a receipt? We'll review your package down the road. That's not uncommon. That occurs. It occurs. I'm not saying that's what occurred here, but it's not unusual to not get a receipt when you walk away from the counter. When I met with, or I spoke with Mr. Kwong about my application, he said, well, do you have anything else? Do you have a receipt? Do you have a phone record? Do you have this and that? And I said, well, I don't have a receipt because I was never sent one. This question was never answered on the fee. So I went through my timesheets of my employees, and on that particular day, there was 3 people that had overhead on their timesheet. So 3 people did something that wasn't engineering, whether it was deliveries, washing a truck, something, but 3 people had overhead. I'm assuming, not assuming, one of them made this delivery. I reached out to the project manager who kind of lived and breathed this project for 3 years. He no longer works for Dillon and Murphy, but he is still local, to get his recollection. And he said he knows with 100% certainty it was submitted, and he knows with 100% certainty he called to follow up on the fee. That's expressed in Exhibit 2. Louis Mendez was my former employee. Mr. Kwong took the time to speak to Louis on his own time. I think they had about a half-hour conversation. Louis said he thought it went well, and he thought the understanding was that, the application was made, something happened along the way, it got lost, it got misplaced, who knows what, but it didn't find its way to the planner. Things happen. Exhibit 3 is what I call the real consequences of starting the project entirely over. And let's be clear, that's what Mr. Kwong is saying. Start over. We've got a built subdivision. This subdivision is built, ready for houses. We're not just starting paperwork over and shuffling around. Mr. Kwong's been with the county since November, so respectively, you weren't involved with the approval of this. The first time it took 8 months. I don't know if you've done many projects in Murata. They're never easy. This was held court. So it took 8 months to get the tentative map approved. I don't see why this would be any different. So the 3 months is really 8 months. There are more agencies now than there were 4 years ago when we submitted. The last application I had 32 agency referrals. You can probably work with your staff, which is one of the agencies, but there's 31 other agencies that I'm pretty sure you don't control. So while I appreciate the offer of you expediting, most of it's out of your control. So after 8 months, when we have a tentative map approved, now I have to do improvement plans, and I have to do a subdivision map. I've got a project that's built, but now I have to do plans for it and a map for it, as crazy as that seems. I've allocated 3 months to get that process. Public Works is here. They could probably attest that's pretty aggressive. So let's just say it's 11 months to get right back to where we are today. Okay, not 3 months. I've highlighted under item 3 the actual cost, that $12,000 is $33,000. So it's not just the cost of planning. There's environmental health fees, improvement plan check, inspection, map check. It totals $33,000. So it's not $12,000. Item 4, I don't think anyone has considered, but my client has spent north of $1 million so far on this project. There are holding costs associated with borrowing money. Let's just say it's $6,000 a month on $1 million. So 11 months from now, he's going to have spent $66,000 in holding costs, and that's conservative. So that $12,000 is really $100,000. Number 5, 9 lots have already been reserved for sale this summer. Since this issue started in March, he's lost 1 and probably 2. No guarantee that all 9 are going to stick around for 11 months. So he stands to lose north of $2 million in sales, and the risk that the value of these lots are going to go down. I think everyone reading a paper realizes real estate's a little bit uncertain right now. Number 6, I haven't even factored in the cost of me having to do the plans and the map again, but it's starting over on improvement plans and starting over on the map. There's a cost. Number 7 is probably the biggest issue. There's a risk if we resubmit it wouldn't be approved. Stranger things have happened. I would have never thought I'd be here arguing about an application I made in November, and things happen. But there's a risk. Anytime you go to a public hearing, there's a chance to lose. This man pulled out 40 acres of walnuts, put in $1 million worth of improvements, and it could all be denied because of whatever. So I don't think it's worth that risk to bring this back to a public hearing. So that's the real consequences of us starting over. Exhibit 5, and Mr. Kwong touched on it a little bit. I highlighted what was important. Victoria Island got a time extension after their project had expired. They did not file before. They might have talked about it. They might have wanted to, but they didn't. It was so non-controversial that they were on consent. They didn't have this discussion. They said, hey, it's on consent. Unless somebody in the audience has an issue, they're getting a time extension. What's a little bit misleading in this report, if you go to the second to the last page, it says they filed their time extension 11/19/2019. This is Victoria Island, with an expiration date of 12/31. Makes it look like they filed it before it expired. If you turn the page on staff's report that you just approved a month or so ago under consent, it clearly says on January 15th, the applicant formally submitted the application. So that was after the expiration date. No, they didn't file before, they filed after. They might have, in Mr. Kwong's words or staff's words, verbal statements are sufficient in that instance to constitute submission. Well, not only do I have verbal, I had my former employee call the county, that's a verbal. I have a written submittal. You have a copy of what my submittal was. So if a simple verbal counts as, if a simple verbal statement counts as submittal, I would think an actual submittal coupled with a verbal is the same. Trying to justify Victoria Island's after the fact approval, they use the term unforeseen circumstances. I think staff or someone misplacing an application is an unforeseen circumstance. I didn't foresee that happening. I submitted a month early. I'm willing to accept things happen. I think that's an unforeseen circumstance, just like Victoria Island. Unique delays were the other justification. This project was delayed due to PG&E delaying the project 3 times because the state of California was under a state of emergency last summer with wildfires. That's actually shown in Exhibit A. I highlighted that. After 3 delays, we decided finally to file a time extension. So we did have some unique circumstances associated with this project. Exhibit 7, my last exhibit, is really a pat on the back to Mr. Kwong. We had quite a bit of back and forth on this, and we agreed to disagree. In a conference call between Mr. Kwong and I and a few others, as well as in a private conversation, said, I believe he submitted. It just didn't make its way to the planner. And that made me feel good. At least at first I thought everyone was challenging my honesty that I actually make a submittal. I've been doing this thing for 36 years. I've probably processed 500 applications. I don't think I've ever missed a deadline. I think I've got a reputation that I try to do things the right way. I was comforted knowing that he believed me that I submitted it, but it's kind of bittersweet. I believe you submitted it. It got lost. Start over. I need $100,000 in C in a year. Kind of, I don't know. It's a hard pill to swallow. The crime or the punishment doesn't fit the crime. There was no crime. Something got misplaced. Things happen. We're here tonight because things happen. We should have been here 2 weeks ago, but someone forgot to file a notice. I accept that. Things happen. We're all human. So we would have been here 2 weeks ago if things didn't happen. And the last little display is just a couple pictures to show that it's built. It's a beautiful subdivision waiting for 17 homeowners to build their dream home. I don't think waiting 11 months and $100,000 minimum justifies a lost application or a misplaced application. So I'm hoping you can do what you did for Victoria Island, bring it back before Planning Commission. Let's vote on this thing. You know, Mr. Grunsky asked how do we expedite it. That's how. Let's meet in 2 weeks and tee it up as a consent item, and we're done. Then we don't wait a year. We wait 2 weeks. So I'd be glad to answer any questions.
Dan, you got any questions, comments? Well, this time I'd like to go ahead and make a motion to put the Ashley Ranch PA 1600084 time extension request on the next Planning Commission meeting as on the agenda as an action item. Roll call.
Chair, may I speak to that? As I mentioned in the staff report and my presentation, basically that this is not a staff action. They cannot appeal it to the Planning Commission, and it's not an action that the Planning Commission can actually authorize to be scheduled. What I can offer you is that I've given you my administrative procedure in terms of explaining what actually happens in terms of filing the paperwork and getting the necessary action before the body, the Planning Commission. But the determination of what happened in terms of the comparison of the dates is not an action before the Commission, is not a appealable action. So the only thing I can offer to you, since I've given you my opinion, is that perhaps you can ask legal counsel whether I actually do have that, whether it's an appealable action or not, and whether it is actually something that you can hear before you. I've given you my presentation, as I mentioned. At this point, there was a lot of staff work into putting this report together, and I feel that the facts are there, and what we don't have at this point is basically an application for you to actually even take action on.
You're telling us we're not the appellate body?
For that particular action that I made, that determination. So you can ask legal counsel for opinion.
Where's the appellate body?
That is a staff action. It is administrative procedure. There is no appellate body for that. But Commissioner and Commissioner, I am not saying it lightly. I absolutely understand what it means, lost sales, impact to him and his client. That is not light. And I want to make sure you know that I really feel for this particular situation. It is not light. I can only give you the facts of what we have. And if you want some further investigation to it, the only thing I can ask you to do is, if you want that legal opinion, whether my action is appealable or not, which I have said is not appealable, and you want verification of that, you can get that from legal counsel.
You said Mr. Murphy, that there was a good possibility it could have been lost.
I spoke to Mr. Mendez at length, and I had a number of good conversations with Mr. Murphy as well. And what I said, I believe he submitted it, but how and with how it got to or didn't get to the county's counter, I don't know. That's why I didn't want to speculate. I am not questioning his integrity whatsoever. I believe as a 36-year applicant, he does this on a daily basis. We have multiple projects with him, and he does, processes it very well. What I'm saying is that in terms of my conversations with him, yeah, I do believe you went through and made the application, but he similarly has staff who has staff worked on it too. So how did it get to us? I can't speculate.
I have one more question for Mr. Murphy. We were talking about, I should have caught you earlier, wrote it down here. We were talking about notices for applications coming due. Have you received any since last December?
I did not receive one on this project. I have received several in calendar year 2020. I have a few. I think I have at least one with me. So I know at least into February of this year, they were still sending notices. Again, like Mr. Kwong said, I didn't need one. I submitted on time. I find this hard to believe that through no fault of my own, something gets lost and there's no recourse. It doesn't make sense. I don't know how much money you make, but $100,000 is a lot of money.
Cut everything off at the end of the year.
Approximately December, January.
Well, I've got one from February. I think I got one from
sorry, Chair. I didn't want to make that sound likely. I didn't just cut everything off.
You said you quit sending in
That's correct. That's correct. Because it was
Just get them.
I'm sorry?
How did his office get them on other applications?
How did his office?
Notices.
As an app for like similar time extensions, like you're saying, do we get notices before it expire?
Right.
And that's what got terminated in terms of a procedure going forward. So for
in December?
Somewhere December, January, yeah.
I've got one in February or March of this year. So I know they're still doing it. Or maybe they're not in May, but they were in February or March.
So you have it with you?
Yeah, I have a copy.
My feelings are, let's go ahead with our motion, and let Mr. Murphy and his counsel work with it. We have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Grunsky? Commissioner Midgley?
Pardon me?
Can we do this?
What did you say? Calling me?
Yeah.
Sorry, yes. Commissioner Midgley.
Speak up. You can barely hear you up here.
It was my understanding that we couldn't vote on this.
No, we're going to go ahead and take a vote, and then we'll let work it out.
Okay.
So we want to be on this. We want to be on record that we did vote, and we're
okay.
supporting
Yes.
an action item.
Yes.
Okay.
Commissioner Rushdahl. Commissioner Maury.
Yes.
Commissioner Hamilton. Commissioner Hamilton?
Yes. I can't hear with your mask on. Sorry.
If I may, through
Motion
the chair.
passes 5-0. All right, we'll move on.
Thank you, Chair.
Any planning commissioner comments? Seeing none. Director's report.
Thank you, Chair. So there were no actions that the board took specifically in regard to any appeals since the last meeting. I did want to go through the July 2nd agenda for the commission that will be coming up. And there are three items that you will have before you. And it is a use permit for an unmanned 80-foot monotower or monopole telecommunications tower, a use permit for the Waterloo-Marauder County Fire Protection District for their new firehouse. And then the third item will be also a variance for to reduce the required lot width in a particular zone. So that will be the three items that you will be hearing before you on July 2nd. And I believe that is it. So, Chair, if I may, and Commission as well, 7 months into it, and I don't want to bring you these kinds of items, and I mean that sincerely, it is not an easy situation. I definitely understand how difficult it is, but I just wanted to make sure you knew what we had in our records. And again, this is not a situation where we want you to have on a regular basis.
All right, thanks.
Thank you.
Maury, report?
I brass here decided that we would like to present to you our thoughts. Hamilton, chairperson once again, vice chair. Discussing.
Motion.
We so move that Hamilton is chair, vice chair.
Second. Roll call.
Commissioner Maury.
Yes.
Commissioner Grunsky.
Yes.
Commissioner Rushtaller. Commissioner Midgley.
Yes.
Commissioner Hamilton.
Yes. All right, thank you. We're adjourned.